let's jump right into it. Okay. So data career pathway. So there are different roles within data itself. So when we talk about data career, we're not just talking about one role. And these are roles. If we talk about titles, there will be hundreds and hundreds of titles because they love to use different titles for different positions, right? But if we summarize, we can summarize the data career in these three specific roles. So there are data analysts, there are data scientists, and there are data engineers. Okay, and there are certain overlaps in there as well, and there will be different roles which lie in these overlapping positions as well, right? But let's have a look at these three different roles in separation, and then we will also look at what are the common things or what are the common skills that everyone in this role are expected to have, right? So let's focus our attention on data analysts first. So let's see what a data analyst do. Okay, so a data analyst understands the business problem and they devise the data-driven solution to those problems. Okay, so they work really close with business. They work with the business users, maybe their customers, their clients, whoever it is. So they work with them, analyze the business problem, and then they will use the data to find some solution that will help or that will solve that business problem. And sometimes it could be the other way around, where they will work with the data they have in hand. They will work with the business on acquiring those business knowledge, and then they will use the data to identify the problem, right? So you can use the data to first uncover or identify a problem, and you can again use data to solve those problems, right? So we are talking about solving business problem, but identifying a business problem is also the same thing, right? And next thing is, what are the skills that we need? So to be a data analyst, we need the data skills as well as we need the business domain knowledge, okay? And this business domain knowledge, like when you are not working in the particular industry, it will be a bit difficult to get, right? Because how will you know about the business when you're not working in that business, right? So those are again things that we need to find. Maybe those business domain knowledge comes from your past experience. So yeah, I didn't work as a data analyst in a retail company, but I was a cashier at the retail company, so I know how that business operates, right? So it could be business knowledge coming from those different backgrounds as well, right? And then the last and the obvious one is communication skills, because like we said previously, this role requires you to work with business closely. So you need to understand their requirement. You need to be able to communicate with them properly. And even when you build the solution, you need to be able to sell that solution, or you need to be able to communicate that solution well to the business user, right? Because if, yeah, you've got a pretty good solution, you have got really nice machine learning model or whatever it might be, if you cannot communicate how to use that model or how to make use of that insight to make some business decision, then it's of no use, right? So the business doesn't get value out of it, and that means your analysis is not generating any value, right? So the communication skill is really important on this role. And next, if we talk about the technical skills, what are the technical skills we need? So we can summarize them as a spreadsheet tool, which is Excel. Excel is just one spreadsheet tool. There are other spreadsheet tools as well, but Excel is kind of like an industry standard. And there is SQL, which is a database query language. And I think Carmel will give you a little bit depth on what is the level of knowledge in each of these sections you need. So I will just leave it to Carmel for now. And we need SQL, we need dashboarding tools like Power BI and Tableau, which are used to build visualizations. And Python is an optional here, because you can pretty much do all the things that you need with the above tools like Excel, SQL, and Power BI. But having Python helps you deal with really complex problems as well. Because with Python, you are writing code, so you don't have any boundaries now. So you can do whatever you want. You can build automations and all those things. But if you truly focus on being a data analyst and you don't know Python, then that won't be a blocker as well. Because if you are really good in all the other tools, then you can still make into a really good data analyst. Next is data scientist. So data scientists solve complex problems with AI and machine learning models. Okay, so they really deal with large volumes of data. They deal with building those custom models, like maybe it's LLM, maybe it's a computer vision model, or whatever it might be. So they deal with those complex problems which needs those custom solutions. And they require a really high level of data skill now, and they need statistics and mathematical knowledge, because now they are in the realm where they are building their own custom machine learning model. Maybe they are training their own neural nets. So it needs a lot of these mathematics and statistics knowledge to be able to build those custom machine learning models. And the technical skills they need is Python. R is also a really popular language, especially for statistical analysis. And then SQL can be optional for data scientists, because they, again, like if you're really good with Python and R, you can find a work around SQL, and you can still get your job done without SQL. But good knowledge of AI and ML libraries is essential here, because you are essentially doing or building your machine learning models. And if you don't know how to work with those machine learning libraries, that will be a bummer. Right? So that's what you need to focus on if you want to become a data scientist. Okay? And there are data engineers. Okay? So data engineers build scalable infrastructures and pipelines for data analysts and data scientists. Okay? So data analysts do their job, they solve business problems. Data scientists do their job, they solve data problems, or they build machine learning models to solve those data problems. But data engineers enables them to do that, right? So to do their analysis, to build their visualization, data analyst needs data. To build their machine learning model or to train their machine learning model, data scientists needs massive amount of data. And when they need that data, data engineers comes into play, and they build that infrastructure which will give them the data that they need, where they need it, when they need it, in whatever format they need it, right? So the data engineers are kind of like a back-end engineers. If we're talking about in website terms, then if data analysts and data scientists were the front end, data engineers would have been the back-end engineer of that. And they require a high level of data management skill, because they are essentially handling the data for all the other data roles. And they need a really good data warehousing and cloud knowledge, because most of the data these days lives in data warehouses, and those data warehouses live in the cloud. So if you need a really good knowledge of how to manage data warehouses and how to deal with clouds if you want to be a data engineer. And technical skill requires are again Python, SQL, and you would definitely need the cloud services skill, which can be AWS, from Amazon, Azure, or Google Cloud. Right? So those are the three roles, but even though those roles seem a little bit different, in the core, they share some common skill sets, right? Because at the end, what they are all trying to do is they are trying to generate value out of the data, right? Because that's why the entire data realm exists, is people want to generate value from their data, right? So what are the common skill sets you will find for all these roles? It's the data wrangling skill. And the data wrangling really means data cleaning, data transformation, right? Because the data that you have in hand probably is too messy. It needs to be cleaned. It's probably in some weird format that you cannot run your analysis on. So you need to transform it. You probably need to do some aggregations. You probably need to filter out some things and things like that. And that's what the data wrangling skill is all about. You're making sure that your data is in the raw form. It probably was too messy, but you are doing all these steps to make it usable And that usable format will later, you will use it to visualize or run your insights on. So the process of getting the data from its raw form to its usable form is the data wrangling. Okay, so it involves cleaning, transformation, and all these things. But that skill is common for all of the data roles, right? So no matter whether you are a data analyst, data scientist, or data engineer, you need that data wrangling skill. Next up is business problem orientation, and that's required for all the three roles, which is whatever you do, your final goal is to deliver business value. Right? Your final goal is not to build a fancy dashboard or whatever it is. Yeah, the fancy dashboard is an intermediate product which will then deliver the business value. Maybe you build a really horrible dashboard, but it's really useful for the business. That's actually more valuable than a fancy dashboard with tens of visuals, right? Because again, the visuals are not the product, or visuals are not the end goal. The end goal is the business value. And same applies for all these different roles. As a data scientist, if you're building a machine learning model, like you build really fancy machine learning model, like a really beefy LLM, but maybe if that LLM is not being used to generate a business value, then again, that's of no use. Same with data engineers. If you're building this really good data warehouse, but if no one is using it, that's again not generating any value, right? So business goal orientation is the key for all these data roles. And it's probably not even only for data roles. For any roles, whatever you do, you're just trying to generate more value for the business, right? So that's probably common skill set for all the occupations, I would say. And last is data skills. So being able to work with data. For example, most of the data will remain or reside in a database. So knowing SQL, which is the language of the databases, is pretty common and pretty useful, because no matter whether you're a data analyst, data scientist, or data engineer, you need to talk to those databases so that you can get the data that you want to analyze, right? So SQL probably is most common skills that all of the data roles needs to have. And some level of coding experience, again, is useful across all the skill set, all the roles. And then cloud experience, again, can be pretty handy for all of them. And being able to use some dashboard tools is really useful, because when you can use dashboard tools, you can quickly build visualizations, and it's really easy to talk to the stakeholders with those visualizations, right? Rather than showing them a table which has got 1,000,000 rows, if you produce few visualization that shows the key things that you want to talk to them, key things that you want to emphasize, then they will easily understand it, and it becomes really easy to communicate, right? So those dashboarding tools are being able to build those visualizations really makes it easy to communicate with the stakeholders, right? So these are the common skill sets. No matter which data role you want to get into, you need to develop these common skill sets. And then after that, you can start working on those specialized skill set, which will get you to the targeted data role that you want to get into, right? So first suggestion here, it would be, if you are starting in the data career, try to focus on these common skill sets first. And once you have a good understanding of this common skill set, then you can orient yourself to whatever data role that you think will suit you the best. Because it's not like everyone needs to be a data scientist. No, we need data analysts as well. And it's not like everyone needs to be data analysts. We need data engineers as well. And all of it just depends on your preference. So try to learn the common skill set. And then when you are learning this common skill set, you will know your preference. Okay, I actually enjoy doing a lot of data analysis stuff. So I will learn even more skills towards data analyst, and I will become a data analyst. Or maybe I enjoy the engineering part much. So I will try to develop more skill sets towards data engineering, and I will become a data analyst. That's when you can orient yourself toward whatever your target data role might be, right? So first things, start by focusing on this common skill set, and then later you can orient whatever role you want to target for. Okay. So that's, I think, all on the data career pathways.